tell us a little bit about how you created Sage Goddess and why, because I came to it being told we needed to know each other, but I'd already followed you because I would read everything you'd write. And
so humbling, by the way, like it's been a long road.
Well, and I would read it and I would go, she's legit. Like I would learn something. It wasn't just like taking wisdom and saying, oh, wear this crystal, do that. It was like,
Right.
there was always like a purpose and a context and a reason why. And I always learned something and felt expanded. So how did you come to create Sage Goddess? What was the inspiration and the intention behind it?
And I'm trying to give you like the short version because I talk too much, but I was a professor. I always say, I'm a recovering professor. So trying to give you the short version. Everybody's got such a good story. The Sage Goddess story is interesting because this was not in the plans. I was a professor. I got recruited into a private sector job out of my professorship to be a consultant. I was traveling and it was a great job, but it was very stressful. I wasn't really teaching. I was behind the scenes kind of managing and running a show and building things and creating things, but I wasn't teaching. Teaching is my calling. And so for the years I wasn't teaching, I wasn't in my authentic self. So for stress relief, I would make things, I would wrap sage because I lived in Eastern San Diego County where it grows wild, and I would wrap sage bundles and I would make perfumes and, blend essential oils. And so I started putting things on Etsy. Now this was like 100 years ago, right? Back when sage bundles and perfumes were like interesting. Not everybody had a crystal shop, right?
Yeah.
So like people say I'm an OG, but I was kind of an OG. I had the first sage bundles on Etsy with flowers on them, which now you go like sage bundle flowers and there's like 18,000 pages of those, right? But we were the first, and it was beautiful, because it really came from my soul. And so I put I was giving everything for free to my friends. And my one friend said, I want to really support you. I would like to pay for this. And I was like, great, send me $10 in the mail. I'll send you a couple bundles. She was like, no, I want you to put it online. So I'm on my computer. My husband knows nothing, by the way. I'm sitting in my bedroom and I'm on Etsy and I just want to list a sage bundle. And it says, you have to have a business name, like a shop. Like you have to have shop. I have a shop. And I was like, I don't want a shop. And so they were like, pick a name. And I'm like, well, it's Sage and I'm named after a goddess. Boom. I didn't look up Sage Goddess to see if there was already a business or like nothing. I just put Sage Goddess. I made it a green banner and I put my one bundle up. And about 10 minutes later, I heard a cha-ching, which meant it's sold. So I texted her and I said, I hope you like it. And she goes, Athena, I'm at work right now. I didn't buy it. And I was like, this is a fluke. So I go in and I see some lady in New York bought it. And I was like, okay. And then, so I put another bundle. She's like, when I get home from work, I'll buy your bundle. To this day, we joke about this. So I put another bundle up and like maybe 2 hours later, 3 hours later, Eastern time, nighttime, cha-ching. Okay. And so I text her, I'm like, okay, thank you so much. And she's like, Athena, I'm sorry. Like, I'm busy. I did not buy your bundle. And I'm like, who are these people buying these? I don't want, like, I'm not trying to do this, man. And she's like, you're onto something. Aww. So then I was like, well, I really like this essential oil blend that I've been wearing. Patchouli and tuberose was my thing since I was 16. Let me try putting that on Etsy. And then it sold. And then I like tumbled stones. And I called it the gem shop or something, gem show or something. And I would put like tumbled carnelian. And it's just whatever I loved, right? And so now we're turning 12 in July.
Amazing.
But it goes to show you, for me, and this sounds funny because I was a business coach, a business professor, and a leadership professor, and all these things. And people build business plans. I know a business plan. Yeah. I knew how to make one, but this had no business plan. Honestly, Alexis, if she was here, would be like, I wish you had a business plan. It was kind of a shit show. You know what I mean? But it was like it was a divine shit show, and it still is a divine shit show, but it's a shit show. And the reason it's a shit show is I just do what I love and hope that people love it too. And I'm still a teacher. So the best part is I still teach, but now I teach everything I love.
Yes. And brava. Cheers to that.
Cheers to that, because you do the same exact thing. And this is why.
It's so fun to meet another one of me. When I started Magic Hour, I had the intention to, what would it look like to just be myself every day? I wonder what would that look like? And I was like, well, I'd make tea, I'd drink tea, and I'd gather women around and we'd laugh our asses off. I did not have the self-esteem to do this. I got fired from my first company. I walked away with nothing, 70,000 in debt, and they didn't even give me money for my stock.
I've been
Like,
fired.
yeah.
Whatever.
Yeah. And it was fine. It was fine, but it was 15 years of my life and it was my name.
Yeah, no, I know. No,
And-
your situation is different. And I think but my mentor called them crucibles. You know, a crucible is that dish in chemistry. Again, I'm not trying to make this into a class, but the professor in me does that.
I love it.
But like you put shit in that dish and you put one piece of shit in there and it becomes some other piece of shit.
Yeah.
And like, so your crucible moments in life are like it's like Dorothy and the Wizard of Oz.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
She's got to pick a direction to go.
Absolutely.
And whatever direction, it's all as it's meant to be. Right. But it's just in those moments, you're like, yeah, which way do I go?
Yeah.
And you're looking for a Tin Man and you're looking for a scarecrow and you're looking for that. And then you meet the Wicked Witch of the West and the flying monkeys and everything. But these crucible moments really shape and define us, don't you
Absolutely.
think?
What I loved about it is I lost my name because it was named after me. And I gained myself. And it was they had my name trademarked. And so I realized.
Can we take a breath there? I keep saying this to her, but she has these, I'm calling them asterisk moments where you need to stop and hear what she said. Can you imagine someone trademarking your name and you lose it? You know, there's so much energy bound up in names and your name has magical meaning. It's super duper, right? And so it's like, when you sit in front of people like her and you think about, you know, walk a mile in those shoes, what does that mean? And the redefinition of you energetically and what that required from you, it's awe-inspiring to me.
Thank you. That little munchkin there, Mia, was the inspiration because I had this daughter and I realized I had to become a role model.
Yes.
And that role model was not going to be, she was there. She was 2 or 3 when I got fired. She was in the yurt with me and I was crying and she was like, Mama, are you okay? Are you okay? And I was like crying and I called in Archangel Michael and I was like, okay, what does this mean? And here's my little Mia watching me be degraded by Wall Street. And I realized so I started my first company for my son, Sage, which grew me up. And then the second company for Mia, which made me want to be a role model. And so with Sage Goddess, you have a 13-year-old and you have a 16-year-old, right?
And 14 and 16.
14 and 16.
Going on like,
100.
30 and 60.
But the role model that you've become through doing what you love every day, like how has that shifted the way you parent and the way you are in the world? Like just to be funny, to be able to be yourself, to be able to like, what does that look like to your kids? And
you know what the main thing I noticed, and I was talking to Mia about this actually before we went live, because her daughter is pretty magnificent. And I will tell you, I didn't have the courage and authenticity to be myself as a teenager because I was radically bullied. And I just thought who I wasn't good enough. And honestly, there are still times where I struggle. I mean, if I'm really being candid, like there's still times where I'm like, I'm not good enough.
Yeah.
And my whole life I was told I was too much, like, too short, too heavy, wore too much makeup, whatever, too talkative, ran my mouth too much, too
big for my britches.
Yeah, you know what I mean? Like people would say like, God, you're so much shorter and a little bit chunkier than I thought you were going to be. It's like, great. Well, you know what? I'm 5'1". You try packing something in a pack.
I'm 5'1", by the way.
But whatever, we're great. But I was talking to Mia about this because I think if I have something to pass on to them, which I hope I have a few things to pass on to them, but the number one thing I see manifest, because actions speak out louder than words, my kids do not put on a show for you.
Yeah.
They are who they are. If you come to my house, they're not going to dress up for you. They're going to be like, what's up, bro? And like, go to their room. Like, they're not trying to like, I was always trying to be who I thought you wanted me to be. Mm-hmm. So if, fancy friends came over, or I tried to dress up and be fancy, or if like low key friends came over, I tried to be more low key. And I've learned I am who I am in this lifetime, and it's a blessing. And sometimes it's a challenge, and I still have to work on loving me more than I do. But my kids are pretty much just like who they are.
I love that. Mine too. Look at Mia. She's not even trying.
But she doesn't have to try.
No, she doesn't.
But I think Mia knows, and I think Zoe knows.
Mhm.
They don't, if they honestly, their power resides in absolutely just being the fullest expression of themselves in every moment.
Absolutely. That's it.
But man, that's hard.
It is hard. Getting a chance to be yourself is the whole point of why you were put on earth.
Yes.
So the fun part is once you can start laughing at yourself, forgiving yourself, I crack myself up. Like I'm alone, like working, and like I will just start like laughing really hard. And because that's the part where it's like loving yourself is the whole, my therapist says it's the whole point of life on earth. And so that it's like, if you can do that, then everything else is gravy. So what does your day look like at Sage Goddess?
Yeah.
Because like this
Yeah.
place is a spectacular mix of sparkles. And it's like a fairy land of yumminess and creativity and natural, divine, like the stones here. So what does your day look like here?
Every day is different.
Yeah.
And my role is very unique. So I'm in the office usually 3, sometimes 4 days a week.
Okay.
I have to have at least one day at home.
Yeah.
With as much silence as I can because I'm an introvert.
I have to have alone time.
Yeah. So people think I'm an extrovert and I'm not. I recharge my batteries alone. So one of the things when I was young, there was a guidance counselor in school. I don't know if they have those anymore, but anyway, they're like, what's your number one thing you want in a job? And people were like money, and people were like, and I was like, alone time, time with no other humans. And they're like, okay, mental health crisis on aisle 3, right? And I was just like, no, I just don't want to be around people every day. So, but that's my creative process. I journal, I read a lot. I'm a voracious reader. So that's my reading time. I have about 80 books on my active reading shelf. And I don't like reading Kindles and things like that. I like actual books that I can dog ear the pages and write little hearts and doodles and stuff. Yep. I'm older than some of you might be, but anyway. Or maybe you're not and you still love that. But
yeah.
I am live in front of our audience about 3 to 4 days a week. And that's either we do live free things, and then we also have paid classes that I teach called Living Magic. Yeah. And so I'm live almost every day. And then at least 1 or 2 days a week is more like my internal processing time. Got it. I'm lucky because I have a big team. Yeah. And so I have a marketing group and I have a product group. But ultimately everything that goes to sagegoddess.com goes there because I say, yes, that's beautiful, or because I asked for that to be there. Yeah. So the nice thing is you're never going to find anything at Sage Goddess in my teaching or in the products or in our marketing that isn't like true to the heart and soul of what I'm trying to create. Yeah. And that's the day I don't want to do it anymore. Yeah. Yeah. Well, because if it's not, unless one of the kids says they want to do it, Yeah. Yeah. Mia wants nothing to do with the business, but Sage definitely could run it someday. I think he's patient and calm, our baby Buddhas, right? But I have no plans to retire. Do you know, one of my teachers turned 89 yesterday. And I'm telling you, the woman looks like she's in her 60s. And she's like, Athena, you don't have to retire. Yeah. But you could change the way you do things. Like one of the things I crave that I don't have right now, and COVID took it away, but I want it back, is this. I want more like community time in person, and I'm trying to figure out how to I'm in the exact mix that in the aesthetic of what I'm not the aesthetic, but like the design of retreats. What I'm doing. Yeah. I need retreats, I need time, I need to sit in circle with people and hold hands and make eye contact and hug and cook and so as I get older, I think my model will change. It's really funny. I'm also thinking about at some point maybe going back to school. I have a PhD in education, but I would potentially like to be a clinical psychologist in practice, and I wouldn't have to do too much to get there. So I've thought about that because I really would like to be able to help people on a one-to-one level too. But I mean, again, this is all like the 30-year plan. Well, so 40-year plan. Yeah. She's 89. I'm 49. Well, my tea ceremony teacher that I took classes from used to lie about her age and lie that she was 90 because she was over 100, I think, by the time she passed away. And she was the one we would sit down and have tea ceremony. And if I thought she couldn't see anything, and we'd be in the tea room and she would wear
her kimono, and she'd come out and she'd be like this, and I would make a mistake, and then she'd hit me with a stick. And I was like, oh my God.
You saw
But
everything.
she saw everything. But I think that the cool thing was that I love that she was like over 100, and she'd be like, oh, I'm 90 when we'd go to her birthday. I would be that person.
Forever 90. Meanwhile, I'm like, I'm gonna be 50 on August 9th. Like, I'm just like balls out, because I mean, I've earned these years. I have MS. I have a progressive degenerative. I don't like to say I have. I have been intermingled with this condition, and honestly, it's the best thing that ever happened to me. I lost my vision on a business trip when I was a consultant. I don't know if I've told you this story. And I was on a super high powered job. I was on my way to Siemens, actually, in Germany, and it was a detour through Tuskegee to do this one kind of I built this program. I was delivering it to a CEO of one of the energy companies down there, and I was in my hotel room getting ready, and my vision started to go dark. And so I called my boss, and she said, call the dude and let him know. And he was like, I will get you into my ophthalmologist this morning. I have a person who's really, really great. And so anyway, I went to the doctor's office that morning, and the doctor did an eye exam and said, we need to get you home. And I was like, no, I have to go to Germany after this for Siemens. I was en route. And he said, no, you either have a brain tumor or you have MS. And I don't have an MRI machine here. So we got to get you home. And the air pressure in the cabin and stuff could be not good for you. And here I have to call my husband and go, the A, B, and C is happening. I got home, took 4 days to get an MRI, and the doctor called and said, I've got great news. You have MS. It was the best news, because the alternative was my kids were like 1 and 3. And if that had not happened, I wouldn't be sitting here with you.
Yeah.
Because in that moment, I was like, if I don't love it, I'm not doing it.
Yeah.
If life has presented me with this challenge, like, I don't often cry when I tell a story, but I do feel emotional. Like, that was the greatest gift I've ever been given.
Yeah.
Ever.
Yeah.
And people are like, you have this really interesting relationship with this challenge. And it's interesting because every time I go for my annual exams, because I'm a really good patient, they're like, it hasn't progressed. And my doctor's always like, I don't know what you're doing, but you should just keep doing it.
Being happy.
But being grateful.
Yeah.
I mean, can you be grateful to the major challenges that present yourself? I guarantee you, if I polled 100 people and said you'd be diagnosed with something today, how many of you would be grateful for it? I don't think anybody would.
Yeah.
Unless you're presented with that being the best possible outcome. And I think it's the same whether it's like, divorce or any kind of loss or grief. It's like, there's still a way to be grateful in that moment. But it gave me a level of bravery and courage to just go, screw it. If this is how this is going, I'm not doing a job I don't love anymore.
Yeah. And as you're saying this, I'm reminded of the Buddhist practice in meditation to die every day. They say there's actual meditation where today is your last day. Today is your last day.
What if?
And the dying every day is the ego starts to be stripped.
That's right.
And the true soul gets a chance to come out and be seen. And
well, it's the death card in the tarot, right? Which is not your physical death. In our culture, we can't talk about death, right? Because people go, oh, it's morbid or whatever. But the death card in the tarot is about transformation. It's about shifting from one form to another. And sometimes we're presented with these challenges, because I can guarantee you, I'd probably still be working at that company.
Yeah. Oh yeah, it was lucrative, right?
Yeah, I was making good. My boss, when I resigned, my boss said, nobody quits this job. Are you kidding? I fly you around the world.
Yeah.
I pay you buco bucks.
Yeah.
Are you kidding me? And I was like, I'm absolutely so serious with you right now. Like, I've got to go.
Yeah.
And when I explained why, she understood. But in the moment, she was like,
"You're gonna go sell flower and sage."
You're going to do what with what? For who?
On Etsy?
Where?
What's Etsy?
Honey, you need to talk to somebody. I think you need help. I was like, oh, I do need help. But no, I really was like, and I remember my parents, with that immigrant mindset of like, but I gave about, I can't remember, it was 3 or 6 months notice. I gave a lot of notice. I really took my time, because I wasn't sure I had enough faith. I had some faith, but I didn't have all the faith.
Mhm.
You don't have to have all the faith.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was kind of a scary time, but at the same time, it was like, and I regained my vision in the one eye and lost it in the next. So I
Mm.
actually could not drive for almost 6 months. It was not an easy time. I mean, we're talking about it now as if it was super easy, but I remember every morning my husband standing in front of me and saying, "How many fingers am I holding up?" And until I could give him the accurate number.
Oh, honey.
So
Oh,
you know what I mean? But
yeah.
I tell these stories not for sympathy or anything
No.
like that. But if you're faced in your life with a big challenge, you have to also look and say, because our universe is polar, right? It's one of the Hermetic principles. If the
Mhm.
the bigger universe is not polar, there's not black, white, up, down, right, wrong.
Mhm.
But our universe has a polarity to it. When you're faced with a big challenge, there's always a big blessing.
Mhm.
And that's what we have to remind people. It's like, on the other side of this. And somehow, some little part of my soul knew it. And I held on to that little part. I call it the golden thread. I held on to that thread so tight.
Mhm.
I still have the crystals that I literally held on to represent that golden thread. And there's nothing you'd be impressed by. I mean, they were little shitty crystals, but I mean, sorry, shitty crystals, but you know what I mean? But they were not, I know. They were not super fancy, but I held on to those little crystals. That's my golden thread. But you know what? I've been faced with so many challenges since, and I still have a golden thread. I still
Yeah.
believe,
Yeah.
because it pulls you.
And there's a friend of mine used to say, rejection's God's protection.
Isn't it true though?
Yeah. So I'd be like, oh, rejection was like my greatest fear, or because abandonment is
Yeah.
my core
Yeah,
wound.
me too.
And fear of
Don't leave me,
abandonment.
don't leave me.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. And so the I would get rejected, and it was like such a personal, intense blow of like
Yes.
third chakra, number one, punch to the gut, and then
Which is
heartbreak.
our place.
Yes, which
We
we
share
have
that. Mhm.
exactly. And so tell me a little bit about, because you've overcome not the situation, but you've overcome the mindset that would have led that situation to be tragic,
Yeah.
right? So
Yeah.
so tell me about the golden thread. Tell me
Yeah.
about what you do on a daily basis to remind yourself of, because you've surrounded yourself now
Yeah.
with reminders.
I have.
And so tell me what your daily practice is for that.
There's a couple of things. And you talk about it a lot too. And it sounds so trite and ridiculous. And I know that, but I really do think there has to be gratitude.
Yeah.
There has to be
That's
gratitude.
my key.
And people are like, oh, they don't want to hear that anymore. But and I don't like trite things either, because I think we overuse language and then those words lose their meaning, or they've got so many connotations. It's like, is my gratitude the same as your gratitude?
Mhm.
I can tell you, there might be parts of my life you might enjoy, and there might be parts of my life you really wouldn't enjoy or wouldn't want. You know what I mean? If you were in my shoes. So it might be too challenging for you, it might be too weird for you, or whatever. I really do try to be grateful.
Mhm.
And where I've made mistakes in life are those moments where, how do I put this? I'm like everybody else, right? So like, I get mad, I get frustrated, I get resentful, I can get bitter sometimes. I all of those things. And when I succumb to those emotions, when I give into those, when I embody those, when I allow those to be like move, the force that moves my soul, I make mistakes.
Mhm.
I don't engage the way I need to in relationships. I withdraw, which isn't my natural way of being in the world. I lose my creative essence.
Mhm.
So for me, it's like, it's really funny. And we were talking about this today in our session. When I was a little girl, like I was cute, you know what I mean? Like I was sweet. And maybe I would have been the same now, but I think maybe without technology and stuff, like I really liked to read books, and
Me too.
I liked to go outside and play with insects, and I would put caterpillars in my lunchbox, and my mom would get so mad, but I was genuinely curious about the natural world, and I would get lost in a book, and it was like a fantasy for me, which is probably why I love writing, and we both have been, published authors. Um, I don't want to lose her.
Yeah.
She's the best of me.
Mhm.
And when I get bitter and sad and resentful and angry, I don't know why it makes me emotional, but like I lose her.
Totally.
she wasn't any of those things.
Totally.
She didn't know what it was like to lose and to be fired and to be rejected and to be alone and to be afraid and to be sick and lose her vision and all those things. She didn't know. And I often try just to reconnect with her because she's the best of who I am.
Love that.
And I really do. But I think to myself, like, ask yourself, what's the best of who you are? And how, and I find her in 1,000 different ways. When I read a book and I get a little lost, I lose track of time and I'm late for a meeting because I'm in a book. I'm her.
That's
when I'm playing with bugs outside, I'm her.
Yeah, that's that reparenting the parts of you, but you're flipping it. We talked about that in our session earlier.
Yeah.
So
sorry, I'm crying.
No, I love it. Are you kidding me? Drink more tea. Yeah. Tea and Sympathy. That's the name of the first tea salon in America. It's still open in New York. So this is.
But Leos don't cry, and we don't really like people who cry. So I'm sorry.
Oh,
I'm kidding, kind of. But Leos
okay,
are always like,
so can we just talk about? Okay, can we talk about what my therapist calls me? No, we have to. This is the perfect segue, and I hope Greg doesn't kill me. But he calls me the snot facial. Just because I cry so much in our sessions, I'll like go in and he'll be like, "Here's the Kleenex."
Yeah, no,
like, so he's
I was like, "Stop crying!" And my daughter's a Pisces,
Oh yeah, no, I love it. So I'm considered the snot facial by my therapist. So therefore, crying is natural.
Yeah.
But what I love about what you're saying is that daily practice of going back to when all the mistakes you could make as an adult were your natural state of being as a child. And where did those things become a mistake? Where did those things become not enough? Where did those things? Yeah. Where did those things? And for me, my nickname growing up was Cave Baby. I climbed trees faster than anybody. I was filthy. I loved being dirty. I
still like being dirty.
Me too. I loved mud. I remember my dad, he rototillered the backyard.
Yes,
and he put in a whole sprinkler system, and he went on a fire because he was a firefighter. And I turned on the sprinkler system and turned the whole backyard. We have pictures of this into a full-blown mud pit. And it was like a half an acre yard. Full-blown mud pit and all the neighborhoods
in California. That's a big ass yard.
And I just remember being so freaking happy being in the dirt. And now
dirt under my nails.
Yes. And now biodynamic tea and taking care of the soil and all that stuff. It's like, those are the things that I love. So remembering where you were when everything you were was okay, where like being late because you're reading a book, talking a bunch because you're excited, where, and I love that. So everything about you.
And overthinking, like I overthink, I'm anxious. I don't have a good attention span. Like if you ask me for a list of my flaws, like I can alphabetize it and put it in a PDF and email it to you probably within an hour, right? And probably illustrate it for you. And those are, I still look, I'm constantly trying to improve myself, but I'm also at a place now where it's just like, I can tell you if I wasn't a little bit anxious and obsessive compulsive and minorly constantly distracted, I wouldn't be sitting here with you. Like if I was super focused and didn't read, I wouldn't be sitting here. But my dad worked 6 days a week. He only had 1 day a week off. And my dad was a voracious reader. He's still the smartest man I've ever met. And so our father-daughter time, he didn't build it around me. He built it around himself, which is fine. He worked 6 days a week. Yeah. So he wanted to go to the library. My dad's Greek. He wanted to get a new book, So
a new book.
Yeah. We go to the library, we get the book. So I was constantly winning those like little bookmarks in the 80s where like I read 6 books, I got a bookmark and I would collect those. Like that was father-daughter time.
Love that. Yeah. Ours was fishing and the Dodgers, but
well, but I mean, it's like and it's interesting because now I build a lot of my life around my kids. Like, what do you want to do? Where do you want to go? Let's go to Starbucks because I know they love it or whatever. I don't enjoy Starbucks.
Yeah.
So I don't get anything. I just go with them for the company or I'll get like,
Yeah.
But it's interesting how culturally, like at least for me and my family, it was like you had to kind of fit into what they wanted to do.
Yeah.
But I just wanted time with him however I could get it.
Yeah, I was exactly the same. My dad, I'd hold his beer while he was fishing.
Uh-huh.
I was just like,
I'm a beer holder.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm a book reader.
Yeah, whatever it takes to be them. So Athena, so now you've got Sage Goddess.
Yeah.
You're 12 years, you're having your 12-year anniversary. You have this beautiful, everybody's so bright and shiny here, as well as all the beautiful things that you curate for people and create. What would be like, what would be the thing that you would say to people, like to tell yourself if they're not where
Yeah.
they know they can be?
Yeah.
What would be the thing you would look back and say, had I told myself this, it might have been easier?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Or I might have had more faith.
Yeah. Can I swear?
Yeah. Oh God. Yeah. They're used to me. So
Fuck it. You put that shit in the fucking bucket. Sorry.
Mia's heard it. Trust me. She's laughing.
I mean, what are you doing? We, again, like, I would love to be just so perfect for everybody. And I would just love to fit into your mold and like, but I don't. And honestly, I don't think a lot of people would be on. I mean, I have a lot of customers who've been with me for a decade.
Yeah.
And it's not, they're not always buying crystals.
Yeah.
Some people have been in my online programs for a decade, and God, I've changed and evolved, but they're here for like the next episode. And I never repeat anything. I always do everything new. Cause I get bored. So I don't repeat anything. I try not to. I'm getting older.
You hear
so
that, Thomas and Ashley?
I mean, listen, at the end of this, bro, it really lasted. My grandmother was a minister in the 40s when women didn't do that. And
Wow,
her dream was to be a radio minister because that was the big deal.
Wow.
And her path detoured because she lost her husband who was in ministry school with her. And then all of a sudden she had 2 young girls to raise and she couldn't keep going on that path. But I often think of her because she really wanted to share spirituality with a broad audience, which is what I do. So I feel like I'm kind of living into her legacy a little bit. And I learned so much from her. But I think at the end of this, what she told me is what she really regretted are the things she didn't do.
Yeah.
Not the things she did.
Yeah.
And she had quite a few things that she didn't get to do.
Yeah.
And I really think about that. It's like, I've made mistakes on this. I'm not saying it's always been the right thing.
Yeah.
Like I've said, fuck it in the fucking bucket and been like, ooh, I really fucked that bucket. But like I saved a little dog's life this week. I don't know if it was the right thing. I mean, I'm almost 50 and it's like having a newborn. I've slept like 3 hours at a time for the last 3 days. He was, they were going to put him down. I mean, they just didn't have space in the shelter and he was in Georgia. I had to fly him to Los Angeles. Like, this is what's happening in my life right now. Paxton. And if you can see pictures of him on my Facebook, even if we're not friends, because it's public, because he's just such a cutums. But like, honestly, I'm questioning my sanity. Like, why did I do this? But he was a fuck it in the bucket. I'm gonna say yes to this dog. He and I are gonna go on this journey together. 3 a.m. I'm like, you really gotta pee right now? Like, I'm just on this, whatever, we're doing this together, right? But he's also like brought this little bright light. And I've just always said yes.
Yeah.
And then also said no.
Yeah. So the yeses in your life, would you say that? Because I always say saying no, like showing boundaries are a form of love.
Boundaries aren't just for you, they're for other people. That's my mantra.
Yeah. Okay,
like
great.
You lock the bathroom door, not just for you, but because other people don't want to walk in and see you doing your thing.
So boundaries are not just for you, they're for other people. I love it.
Right.
So boundaries is a form of love. That makes sense. So once again, this is Athena Perrakis of sagegoddess.com. She is, as you can tell, like my
wire.
Well, and a lot like me. And so now I feel extra validated today that there's more than one of us. And of course that there are people in the world that are creating beauty because their soul commanded it.
Yeah.
And that there can be so much joy and abundance in that, and role modeling and
role modeling, even when it doesn't look like, I always say magic in progress looks really weird. It does. I mean, in the middle of making something beautiful, does it look great when you're cooking dinner and the vegetables are all chopped and shit's falling on the floor and the dog's eating stuff and the kids are screaming? Does that look like a magic meal? But it can end up really being beautiful. And I will remind you, you're never alone. Like this one
Yeah.
and I have been connecting virtually for a long time. Like
Yeah.
this day has been a long time in the coming.
Yeah.
But you are not alone. And if you have not found your people, you will. And joining communities like hers is a way of finding that. That's what I do for a living. I always say people say, what do you do for a living? I'm like, I gather like souls.
Yeah. Yeah. I create reasons to gather.
And you create you create magic moments. You bring
Absolutely.
presence and awareness. You are divine.
Thank you, baby. Well, this was a whole lot of fun. I love you all. I will see you next Monday, and go to sagegoddess.com and buy something that sparkles. And this is not a conversation that's going to end.
No.
So we will continue our conversation, and we love you all. And I want you to have a great night. Thank you for joining us. And
come to my pups.
I know. Okay. I love you
Bye,
guys. See you later. Bye.